and welcome to Undercurrent. I am Mudian Abu Jalala. Italy holds the 7th position for Australian imports within the food and beverage industry. This is a good indication for the current trend. Nadia visited the first Italian food and wine festival in Perth.
Today we are at the inaugural event, the Italian Wine and Food Festival at Perth Town Hall. I can't wait to have a look at what's inside.
Very welcome to the Italian Food and Wine Show, here with the master Giuseppe Pagliarici from Perugino Restaurant, the master of the food service Vince Lagalia. We've been doing homemade spaghetti all day with the seafood chowder and the suckling pig. He's been very happy all day, and we've been serving rolls with suckling pig and spaghetti with seafood chowder all day.
It's wonderful to be here this afternoon at the inaugural event, and I have here with me the Deputy Mayor of our sister city of Vasto in Italy, Mr. Vincenzo Sputore. Buongiorno Vincenzo.
Buongiorno a tutti, saluto tutti e porto il saluto dalla città di Vasto, che in questo momento mi onoro di rappresentare, a tutti i cittadini di Perth e dell'Australia che ci vedono.
So he just said that he brings greetings from the sister city here, and he's enjoying being here in Perth, and it's wonderful because for Vincenzo it is his first visit to Perth, Australia. And for us, we're very proud of sponsoring this event. It's been a sellout, and of course, you know, I can see it will be an annual event now with such a strong following today.
We're making a classic Italian aperitivo drink called an Aperol Spritz. It's a mix of Aperol, Prosecco and a little bit of soda water.
Wow, how many of these would you recommend?
In Italy they would have maybe 1 or 2 at about 4 o'clock with a bit of antipasto.
Perfect.
Get you ready for your main meal.
We do offer a wide range of sauces like tomato sauce, fresh truffles, truffle sauces, mushrooms, you name it, we got it. And it's all imported from Umbria, Italy, from Perugia, between Florence and Rome.
And how long has it been going for over in Italy?
In Italy, it's been going on for 42 years at the moment. So it's quite, we export into America and Asia at the moment already, and this is our first year in Australia.
We do a range of products of Italian heritage, being the prosciutto, the coppercola, cacciatore, salami as such, and Italian sausage. And we sell those all over Western Australia and also across Australia. The company has a wonderful heritage. We also make Australian products, ham, bacon as such, which are also represented or sold under the De Sonia brand. We're only doing this because of what people have done before us and what they've left as far as the foundation is concerned. And it's important that we build on that foundation. We give value, we believe, through the quality that we serve or the quality that we manufacture in the real sense, and we're well represented.
As you can see behind me, some very lucky people are enjoying a wine masterclass today. Tell me, what makes these wines from Tuscany and Sicily, what makes them unique?
These wines were chosen based on the aroma. So for me, the aroma I get from the glass is personally very important for me. So more than the actual palate flavor and the descriptions of wine, it's more interesting for me, it's more fun for me. I crave the nose, so to say, of the wine to be able to enjoy that. And I want to show these wines because I think they display a nice variety of aromas. And Italian white wines are increasingly aromatic, like really hedonishly aromatic.
How is the festival going today for you?
Very good. We are having many people interested to discover our culinary tours in Abruzzo, Italy, and to taste our wines with some local producers. So it's very good. Many people from Perth are interested in Abruzzo, in our region.
What a fantastic festival that has been here today at Perth Town Hall. I'm Nadia Hunter.
Here we are in the heart of Perth, which is buzzy and busy, not like Fremantle, which got a problem, but got the solution. A 5-year economic plan. Jack outlined the main objectives of this strategy.
The Committee of Perth are working on plans to redesign the centre of Fremantle, a city known as a hotspot for tourists and a centre for culture. But is this port city still what it used to be?
To see if I could find out more about how these plans would change the city, I took a trip down to the town hall.
It's a city that's got a lot of history and a lot of heritage. It's a port city, but one that's had a long history of being a place of commerce and industry. The talk of the state government either selling or a long-term lease of about 50 years of the port has the potential to have quite a big impact on Fremantle.
What I'd hate to see is a private operator come in and say, oh, I'm going to play the safety first rule and I'm going to block the port off to the public, and it would dislocate the city. And I think if it's handled properly by the government, it won't impact the economy at all.
What you're going to see over the next 5 years in Fremantle will be quite a dramatic change. You're going to see a lot more developments, a lot more apartment developments especially, because our aim is to quadruple the amount of people that live in the centre of Fremantle. You'll also see a lot of new office developments, but also a lot of changes at the street level, where we start to activate our streets, close off parts of the street so there's more pedestrian and they're more walking and cycling friendly.
I think we've got everything right, groundwork. Biggest challenge is probably more macro. So by that I mean things like the fact that government doesn't have any money. The world economies, many countries around the world are in recession.
I think it's a mix. We're seeing some businesses doing really well in many ways, but we're also seeing some businesses really struggle.
I decided to explore the city centre to see if I could find out for myself how business owners were doing.
Business in Fremantle at the moment is it's pretty bad. We don't have the people coming through. We don't have the tourism coming through like it used to.
Business has been on a very heavy decline over the last few years in Fremantle. I think it's the economy in general, but Fremantle has slowed down a lot.
The last 5 years, it's just been really, really hard.
A lot of shops that are suffering at the moment due to the lack of people that are actually coming into Fremantle.
Fremantle is dying in a way where, even with the tourism coming through saying that this is one of the worst ports that they've pulled into.
The city of Fremantle has been trying to do a lot with festivals and stuff like that, but that brings in people on the weekends only. It doesn't really do much for during the week trading.
We really wanted to make sure that over the longer term, local businesses are much more sustainable in Fremantle. It's hard to sustain a business when you're busy 3 or 4 days a week, but quiet the other 3 or 4 days. So what we're doing is actually making sure that by having more people living and working and visiting Fremantle, that it's good for businesses.
The biggest problem I find is the parking.
Better free parking, so that people will come in and shop.
The parking situation is definitely a negative for Fremantle.
Heavily subsidise a cat bus system that runs around and just allows people to travel freely through Fremantle. We want to make sure that people can get in by bikes, by cars, make sure there's enough parking. So I guess our job as a local government is to make sure the planning regime is in place to allow developments to occur when they need to, where they need to and when they need to, and also to make sure that the visitors are well catered for so that the retail businesses in the city can prosper.
They'll rather go to the shopping centres, and there's not enough to attract people in Fremantle. There's really nothing apart from a couple boutiques.
There's not a lot of variety anymore in Fremantle. With Myers leaving, that's also reduced the amount of people that come through.
CBD needs to have people from all over the place come in, and more than just on Fridays and Saturday nights. It needs to be 7 days a week. So if that's about a marketing, a branding campaign, a marketing campaign, we need to look at it. The Chamber of Commerce thinks that we need to be much bolder about building the brand of Fremantle outside of the borders of Fremantle.
But what we need to do is really help those businesses that we want to keep going into the longer term, help them through this transition period as we bring Fremantle back to life.
If we can just get 1 or 2 major developments happening, and there are some fairly big developments happening, but particularly this King Square development, at a $250 odd million for the total development of the King Square project, that will deliver a message to the rest of the market.
If we live through those, then the centre of Fremantle will be a much more vibrant place to be. Our task now is to make it through the next 4 years.
This has been Jack Middleton. reporting for Undercurrent.
To be alive is free, to breathe is free, and to drink water should be free. Water Corporation Construction and Engineering Division being sold for $10.4 million, which raised questions, lots of questions. Drinking water privatisation is an issue both newspapers and social media have been talking about in Perth after it came up to the surface that secret talks of selling assets in Western Australia took place. When this was first undertaken in the United Kingdom, the outcomes were service levels dropped, maintenance was neglected, and villages were forced into obtaining their water from standpipes in some villages. The only positives were the privatised water boards increased their management numbers and voted themselves a huge salary increase to complete detriment to their customers. If this is to be contemplated, the public needs to be aware of the performance indicator and what assurance they have in respect to the cost. We have tried to contact water associations and Water Corporation in Perth with no luck of getting comments. They all refuse to speak to us. So here's what people of Perth think about water privatisation.
No, definitely not. No, no one has the right to privatise the water or the air or the ocean. I think it's ours. We've got to finish up with something.
I can't see much point in privatising it, really. The government needs the money, I know, but it's a financial decision. I'll let the Treasury people in West Australian government decide that.
I think water's such a precious product in Australia anyway, and if it gets privatised and this control goes to that sector, I don't think it's to benefit for the people.
I don't know how they can privatise the drinking water as differentiated from the normal water, which we already pay for. But water should be free to all the citizens in the state.
I think they're probably a bit surprised because there hasn't been a debate or a discussion about it. I mean, if you're put on the spot, I'd like to know the reasons for it, or I would like to have time to think about, the pros and cons.
Unfortunately, by the time they decide it's a bad thing, the way things move now, they're very sly. So they will package it into something else and then pass it through some other means.
They'd be voted out in a minute.
I am against secret talks. I feel that the public is entitled to know what is happening and participate in the discussion, very much so.
No, definitely cannot see that would be any good for anybody except for the shareholders.
Yeah, I don't understand it. Water should be free for all the people that live here.
An ancient secret Aboriginal heritage site being deregistered by the government for a useless freeway. Angeline investigated the story for us.
Here we are at the Beeliar Wetlands, where the construction of the Row 8 highway between the Kwinana Freeway and Stock Road is being held. Issues such as environmental concerns have been considered, although discussions of Aboriginal heritage were not addressed.
It is not only the physical but the spiritual. It is about all life, all of creation, and it's about our right to freedom of religion and our right to protect what is our church, what is our spiritual dreaming. This is our place of worship. As I did when I did that ceremony, I was paying homage to not only the Waggle, the rainbow serpent, but to my ancestors. Because we live in a city, a modern city, does not mean that we're not real Aboriginal people, and it does not mean that we do not have a sacred connection to places such as this. Everyone would have to agree with it, otherwise it doesn't go ahead. That's what happens in our camp, at our campfire, at our circles, under law, and a lot of our people have become Christians, and that's fine. You can become whatever religion you want in this country, but there was a religion here for thousands of years, and that is the sacred Noongar dreaming here in the Swan River, Swan Coastal Plains, and it's to be protected and preserved.
What are your hopes for the future for the Beeliar Wetlands?
Well, we'd like to see them remain as they are today, and
as our city is investing $20 million around the Bibra Lake foreshore itself, and we're planning a Aboriginal visitor and information centre within metres of where we're standing. And you can see behind us, just out here, the amazing lake itself, the bird life, and the Banksia woodlands in the background. We have very secluded bird hide areas, and it's a place that people have been coming to for over 40,000 years. We want to see that continue, and for people to be able to enjoy the fresh air and the ambience of a location which is absolutely brilliant.
These lands historically hold a very strong connection to the Aboriginal people. They poured cement into the ground in Canning Vale. It affected the run of the water stream under the ground. And in 2 years, this beautiful lake went dry.
Some members of those families who they see as important, or they'll place importance on them, and they will take them out of the campfire circle, if you like, and they will train them to have knowledge of how the white man acts in regards to the environment, how the white man acts in regards to human rights. As I said before, this has happened so many times throughout the world to Indigenous people. The divide and conquer tactic is a tactic that is used instead of using guns, instead of using weapons, instead of using the police force. We'll pit this one against those mob, and we will get what we want. So it's about the end game, and what the government wants, the government will get.
No to Roe, very much against it. And there's just been a lot of trickery in regards to removing heritage sites off here to get the Section 18 through. Septimus Roe was a man who helped lead the Redcoats down to Pinjarra to create a Pinjarra massacre. It was not a battle, although in the white history books it's called a battle, but it was no battle. Again, I sort of feel it's bad taste. Having a man who did such destruction, again, destruct a very important sacred site.
You know, we're not even treated as Aboriginal people because we live in a city. And we're not even taken seriously when we believe in something that is as real as the white man's God. And, you know, there's supposed to be freedom of religion in this country, and that would go hand in hand with the protection of the white man's church and the Muslims' mosque, but it doesn't work for us. And we're to believe in what? We're to go to church now and believe in somebody else's religious... Well, most Aboriginal people don't want that.
We've got to stop it before they put the tenders out. Once the tenders have gone out and the contracts are signed, regardless what government's in it, it'll go through. It's so important. We must stop this now.
Thanks for joining our discussion on the Beeliar Wetlands. I'm Angeline Tan.
We all love food, but some of us prefers the non-GM food. Steve Marsh is a farmer from Western Australia who lost his appeal in court after his non-GM crop was contaminated by a neighbouring farm. Lynn McLaren answers in this interview the questions about the non-GM future.
Well, I mean, it's very important to realize that the judge's decision was split. So one of the judges actually agreed with Steve and the case put forward that his property was unfairly contaminated by GM material and that he lost his market as a result of that. So really the jury is still out, even though he lost his appeal. Because many farmers in Western Australia have chosen to grow GM, they are putting other farmers who choose not to grow GM, or in Steve's case, who choose to have an organic farm, at risk, and the state laws are inadequate to protect them. And I think that's basically what the court case showed.
In Western Australia, GM cotton and GM canola have been commercially planted since 2008 and 2010 respectively. In 2010, the Minister of Agriculture and Food issued an exemption order to permit commercial planting of GM canola in WA. Plant around 72,000 hectares of GM canola. Since then, the proportion of commercial canola grown that is GM has been steadily increasing, around 10% in 2011 and 2012 to 15% in 2013 and 20% in 2014. In 2014, the 1.1 million hectares of canola growing in WA, around 260,000 hectares were GM canola.
Well, I think farmers are going to be very cautious about where they locate their GM crops, where they locate their non-GM crops, because if there is a GM crop in the area, you are at risk of those volunteers. They call them volunteers, we call them contamination. You are at risk of your crop being contaminated. And so you may have to negotiate strongly with your neighbors. It's going to put a lot of personal relationships at risk. Because basically it will come down to farmers to negotiate this, negotiate whether or not they put each other's markets at risk, which is pretty serious, especially when you consider there's a premium on non-GM compared to GM crops. Yeah, there's a couple of ways that we can protect GM farmers. The distances at which you can be permitted to grow GM. So we've had in place a GM-Free Crops Areas Act, which would enable entire communities to declare themselves GM-free. So that's one way, is to have a mechanism to declare quite a big area GM-free. Another way is to establish protections so that if a farmer does find himself losing his market, that there is some recourse, some financial recompense. So that could be strict liability, so that means that a farmer who grows GM is strictly liable to keep it on his property. And that puts the onus on them to make sure that they don't contaminate their neighbor. So there's a couple of different ways we can do it. Some people have talked about a levy, an industry levy, that would then be used to compensate farmers like Steve who lost their markets. So there's different ways we can go, and the Greens have proposed a strict liability insurance at a federal level.
But why should non-GM farmers be liable for the economic loss of GM causes? Like it or not, a rejection of GM is a reality, and it causes economic loss to farmers.
Look, I mean, the risks are not just to your marketplace, but it's also to the environment that you're farming in. We don't know the true impact of genetically material that's released into the environment, genetically modified material that's released into the environment. So we know that the beekeepers, for example, are some of the people who are most concerned about the spread of GMO material throughout the environment and the potential impact it could have on bees, maybe making them susceptible to disease or pesticides. So, you know, it could actually impact farming, and it will impact the environment long into the future, because a lot of this stuff is untested. I mean, the GM corporations have managed to become so influential in the agriculture industries amongst governments that they've been able to bypass normal testing, long-term testing. So we have released into our environment through the agriculture industry materials that, you know, haven't been adequately tested. So it is really playing Russian roulette, I guess, with our future, that we've allowed GM to be grown in Western Australia without these controls in place.
This is all from Undercurrent for this week. We'll see you next week, same time, same channel. Goodbye.